We first want to start off by saying thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. We want to tell a quick story to begin. Idris is an immigrant from Somalia. He moved to the United States a few months ago and was enrolled in an online math course. I met Idris because he wasn't doing so well in this course, and through just a brief interaction with him, I realized that his weakness wasn't actually in math, but he was missing all of the word problems, so his weakness was actually in English. In our current society, a student like Idris would most likely be left behind in high school because his individual needs would not have been met. My name is Jordan, this is Harrison, Rachel, and Thomas, and our solution will help people like Idris keep up in a society that is changing more rapidly than any other time in history. In our presentation, we'll begin with a brief background, we'll dive into 2 solutions, and then we'll end with our impact. So as far as our background, we first wanted to say how impressed we were with Microsoft's TechSpark initiative, and then how even more amazed we were with the other initiatives that Microsoft is involved in technology and outside. TechSpark is so cool because it's meant to help people in this digital revolution that is happening so quickly here in the United States. And we know that this is also going to continue into the future. By the year 2025, AI revenue is predicted to grow by 14 times. This will have consequences that we can both predict and then other consequences that we won't be able to.
Though we recognize that AI will both bring good to our society, we also recognize that there are potential harms as well. In a survey done of top AI researchers, it was found that 40%'s primary concern was around job loss, with 51 million projected jobs lost by the year 2035. This is crucial because as we look at different populations, they're going to be harmed. At Microsoft, you have a unique obligation and opportunity to bring everyone into the digital era using TechSpark and our initiatives. We realize that Microsoft's current future perception will be linked to 2 key things, specifically looking to hope and fear. We recognize that hope will be associated with positive use cases of AI and that fear will come from negative consequences. We believe that the best solution will both increase hope and decrease fear with one recommendation. Using 3 criteria, we evaluated these ideas. First, and most primarily, we wanted to maximize social impact. Second, we wanted to look to maximizing Microsoft's current portfolio and capabilities, and finally, yield long-term returns for Microsoft. Currently, because of this decision, we determined to focus on 2 TechSpark areas, career paths as well as digital skill development, in order to enable the workforce to be prepared for this change.
Our solution, Opportunities for All, is an AI-driven adaptive learning platform. With artificial intelligence, computers are able to learn and to adapt to individuals' learning styles and the pace at which they learn. This enables education and professional job development to move at the exact same pace as learners and as individuals. And research shows that adaptive learning is actually better than traditional learning, showing 90% higher engagement as well as increased retention and increased pass rates, all of which are statistically significant. There's a huge opportunity for Microsoft here with the adoption of education, of AI in education being extremely low, as well as the future potential being very high. Because of this, Microsoft is able to have a huge impact on both society and the 2 most affected populations as a whole. These 2 populations are first, at-risk students, and second, the current workforce. The first, at-risk students, these are the students that are most likely to be left behind because of artificial intelligence. And second, the current workforce are those that are facing a rapidly changing job market and which will require new skills in order to stay competitive. We believe we'll be able to solve both these problems for these populations by providing an intelligent education platform, which will provide the speed and the personalization necessary for the at-risk students, and providing fast, personalized adaptive training for the current workforce.
So jumping into our first solution, we want to empower both economically and racially diverse youth to be successful in the digital revolution. We recommend using this AI platform to make this happen. Currently, we realize that the population that's going to be left behind is the undereducated in America, with 44% of non-high school graduates holding jobs that are highly automatable and only 1% of bachelor degrees jobs being highly automatable. We recognize that non-high school graduates are a key at-risk population. The unfortunate thing is this is going to lead to more wealth disparity in the future. Associated with previous industrial revolutions, we've seen a concentration of wealth, but more importantly, this is going to continue in the future, and lowest quintile individuals aren't going to maximize on the benefits of AI. So, we recognize that we want to tailor our solution for two key groups. First off, looking at minority Americans, the fact that they don't graduate from college, as well as low-income individuals who don't even attend college. Our solution can provide them individualized help. Rather than allowing them to be left to the system, we will enable AI to provide the solution. So, going back to Idris's story that Jordan mentioned earlier, thankfully, Jordan was able to provide him one-on-one help that Idris needed to be prepared for the digital revolution. Unfortunately, not all Idrises have one-on-one help. In fact, 84% of teachers say that it's difficult to provide one-on-one help in the classroom, meaning that they're left behind in the current system. Thankfully, AI can provide the solution. So first off, it can understand what Idris doesn't know and things in areas that he can improve in. Second, it can adapt to his learning style, speed of learning, and the ways that he ideally will take information away. Third, it will partner with teachers. Rather than replacing teachers, it will enable them to be more successful by providing them data that they need to provide in-person help in the best way. Finally, and most importantly, it's highly scalable. Rather than just dealing with one Idris with one tutor, we can provide solutions for thousands of Idrises and enable them to succeed in the future.
In order to create the most effective platform possible, we need to leverage 3 of our existing relationships. The first is with Teals, who has a reach to over 12,000 students across the United States. The second is with Code.org, that has a specialty in teaching underrepresented minority youth. And then the last is with Lynda.com, that has an amazing education platform that we can leverage to roll out our education platform as well. Going forward, we recommend another partnership with Stanford and the University of Washington. These 2 universities have already paired up to tackle the problem of AI integrated education. And we believe that with their expertise, we can bring further technology and also our expertise to help resolve this problem more quickly. Imagine a student like Idris logging onto his computer and seeing this dashboard. He'd be able to see his progress, individualized help, and then notes from his teachers that would help him more effectively learn and continue in his education. Now, associated with this solution, we see a couple of risks. The first is lack of access to broadband and technology. With the broadband, TechSpark has a goal of closing the broadband gap within the next 5 years, which should give internet access to all students. And then with the technology, we do recognize that there are students in rural and urban areas that do not have the computers that they need to use this technology. But Microsoft has other initiatives in place that could give refurbished goods to these students and hopefully provide them with the technology they need. The second problem is that we won't be able to address the at-risk youth who need this the most. And to solve this, we just suggest that Microsoft make them the priority. Make sure that they are the first to get it so that they can have this change in their life. As we look at the criteria, the social impact will be, over the next 10 years, 815,000 more high school students graduating that wouldn't have graduated otherwise. We leverage our current capabilities, and as far as returns from Microsoft, $7.6 million in revenue by selling this product to universities and institutions who can afford it.
So moving into the second part of our recommendation, we want to use the same technology that we just talked about and show how that can help the current workforce. Specifically, we want to talk about how we can count on AI to help career training development match the pace of the demands of a fast-evolving labor market. So looking at the history of the US, we're in our 4th industrial revolution. Every past revolution has brought with it considerable change and shifts in the labor market. Going forward, we predict that this isn't going to be any different, but we also predict that we'll have steady growth if prepared. However, if unprepared, experts say that we can reach a deficit of 10 million jobs by 2020 alone. And extrapolating this out, that leads to 35 million jobs less than where we should be by 2050. Now, what does this actually mean for Microsoft? We recognize that we have 3 key assets that we can leverage to be better positioned to help society. The first asset is that we have a 500 million user database of employment and jobs, the ebbs and flows of what's happening with labor with LinkedIn. The second asset is the fact that Microsoft does twice as much research as any other company. We know AI very well. The third asset is the training resources provided by a proven platform in Lynda that can allow us to scale out this platform quickly. Now, this is a wonderful position, and it also provides an amazing opportunity for Microsoft. But I would even say it goes beyond just an opportunity, but it allows us to fulfill our corporate responsibility to society, which is to help society move forward through technological innovation.
Microsoft is off to a great start with Markle. The Markle Foundation is a foundation that helps those that have been displaced by technology and helps them to repurpose those skills as they move into the future. However, Markle is limited by labor and the amount of people that they can help and provide individual care to. When we apply Microsoft and artificial intelligence, we're able to scale this massively while still providing the individual training through this adaptive learning. And one of the cool things about artificial intelligence is that we're not just adding more resources for people, but we're providing tailored solutions for each individual. Now, we can't see the future, and so we don't know what the future employment trends or needed skills will be. However, with LinkedIn and artificial intelligence, we will be able to know and determine what these trends are before anybody else. We'll be able to use Markle to match people with these job skills, these jobs based on skills, and finally, artificial intelligence will be able to use adaptive learning to help these people better prepare for the job market. So what would it look like for someone who's approaching this? They would receive a LinkedIn notification and be directed to our Opportunities for All website, where they would be prompted with different skills that they would be most needed in their changing and adapting jobs. So there are some risks and concerns with our solution. One is that people are often skeptical of these sorts of initiatives and of LinkedIn notifications. And so Microsoft would need to maintain transparency to overcome any sort of doubts that people may have. Additionally, the trainings might not be sufficient to maintain the jobs, to provide help for these jobs in this rapidly changing market. However, Lynda, matched with the adaptive learning, would be able to provide better training than anything else that's on the market. Finally, as we look at the criteria, we're able to increase employment and save the society billions of dollars through decreasing associated suicides. We're able to leverage the TechSpark program and strengthen the Markle Foundation and provide returns to Microsoft of 55%.
So now let's take a look at what the actual impact to Microsoft is in the future. With this timeline, we can get a general and vague understanding of what the rollout would look like with this sort of platform. In the first 6 months, we have to work with our research partners and understand how the product is going to look. The next 6 months is a perfect time to do a beta test with a few select schools and understand what the student and teacher interface looks like and make sure they can use it as much as we expect they can. Then in the final year is where we can start school by school, scaling this out, and getting this actually out to the populations that we feel like need it and are at risk, as we talked about earlier. Now, the cost of this initiative do total to be about an annual $1.8 million. But these are additive risks to Microsoft since we already have so much invested in R&D, and we already have some really impressive partnerships with nonprofits that allow us to reach so many schools and so many people so quickly. And the largest cost, on this slide is just the labor behind it, which we felt like a 10-man team would be sufficient for the initial years. Now finally, this is the most exciting slide, the impact slide, and understanding what this actually means for society and Microsoft. There will be 35 million more jobs by 2050 in the US because we have a prepared workforce reaching those highest skilled jobs. We also have savings of $9.5 billion to society through fewer suicides due to a higher and healthier employment rate. We have $8.6 million of profit coming back to Microsoft through their licensing and their Lynda conversion. And then finally, 81.5 thousand students who are at risk are going to be graduating, students like Idris, who will now be better prepared for their future careers and better prepared to work for Microsoft. Any questions?
Who wants to start?
I have a question. As I'm trying to understand what this technology would do you see it having any application for, say, a mid-career or even young career blue-collar rural worker who may not have much experience with computing at all? Because it looks like it sort of requires a certain basic understanding or facility with computer usage.
So, I'd say that that's exactly what our targeted solution was. We use the example of SQL and Hadoop for perhaps someone that's making a slight transition, but we believe that we can provide, using Lynda and our current technology, provide solutions that even apply to blue-collar workers that are just starting in their career. We want this to be something that's available to everyone.
And then kind of to build off of that, that's the really big importance of the Markle Foundation. They already have this process in place where you can come in as a coal miner, for example, type in your profession, and it says your skills line up with this. This platform can come in and partner with that and saying, oh, and if you learn these skills, which we recognize are on your level, you then have these opportunities open for a more sustainable job.
I wanted to ask about the bridge between the information and online resources that AI enables and delivers. You mentioned this a little bit in the risks, but it seems like would be a big need for some in-person connections and mentorship as well. Have you thought about any partnerships with organizations so there could kind of provide that bridge?
With the education for like high school students, we believe that the partnership with TEALS might be a good way to roll this out. As mentioned, is this the right area or the next?
I was referring to your second example.
My apologies. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, for the second example, Markle and the Skillful Foundation, which is a part of Markle, is one partnership that we want to leverage and to continue to build that out. And especially, they provide in-person help, and that's something that I think will grow to more states, and we'll be able to use that to provide in-person care. So that's something that I think will grow with this program as well. And then would want to explore and look at other partnerships as well.
In your recommendation for the platform, I think it was like a $10,000 investment. Did you look at any of the existing platforms to determine if you could leverage what already exists versus building something new?
Absolutely. That's why we recommend the partnership with Stanford and the University of Washington. They've already developed a platform that actually is adaptive, and we believe that we'll be able to use their advancement and understanding of this technology to combine with our research on AI to create an ultimate solution. And just to be clear on the costs as well, this is just in addition. We recognize that there's a lot of internal costs as well that we don't quite understand that would be incurred as well. But yes, absolutely, we think that we should build on what's already existing, and Stanford and the University of Washington have already done a great job.
Just to add, we also have lynda.com, that's a part of Microsoft, that is an online training platform, and so we could build off of their back end to save us a lot of costs in developing an online training platform.
In the revenues, you discussed sales to higher education. Could you go into some more detail about the revenue stream over the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, so, sorry, to calculate that revenue, it's the far right graph. We use some just basic estimates. The first estimate we said is that to use this product, we would sell it for roughly half the price of a salary for a professor, which we looked up online, and that's roughly $50,000. We vetted this by looking at the price of other technologies that are licensed to universities. There's actually kind of few information on this because they try to keep it secret for most of these technologies, but from what we found, $50,000 seemed like a good estimate of what we could charge annually. And then we looked at the number of universities in the United States, which is 3,039, and then we estimated, and we think this is a low estimate, that we could get at least 1 in 20 universities using this technology. And so that calculated to be roughly $7.6 million annually.
And do you foresee any other revenue streams from this?
We believe that other institutions might be able to use it as well. So for providing skills to maybe employees at a large company who wants to help their current employees adapt to maybe these technical revolutions, or just learn new skills, it might be a good way for these employees to just further their skills.
In your last slide, when you talked about the potential impacts at sort of a global level, can you talk about sort of what this conclusion is based on in terms of assumption around scope and timeline?
May I ask a clarifying question on that? Is that about one specific number or just generally speaking?
Sort of, you talked about this impact. At what point in time and sort of how far reaching is this?
Yeah. So I'll start with the top two because they're very related. That's the projection that I made with the job gap that could exist with no preparation if we just let it go, versus preparation like the exact type that we're trying to get ready for right now. And that's 35 million jobs. And then the one on the right was actually pretty easy to calculate by finding some economics research on the impact of employment rate and suicide, which is very correlated. And using that rate, we found the correlation of what would exist based off a 35 million drop in employment with the future population. And with those two numbers combined, we found that there was going to be around 8,000 additional suicides a year, and the average suicide cost society around $1 million, giving you that number of $9 billion. And then, do you want me to keep going on the bottom too? Sorry, I want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Right.
20 years from now,
So the
30
top
years
two
from
are
now, is
2050. And then the bottom two, this is once we fully implement the platform for students and in general. So that kind of depends on our end. Our optimistic number at the 2 is 2020, assuming that we could get a 2-year rollout in place. But the idea behind, and I guess, Jordan, you know the students number better, but on the profit on the right, that really just depends on conversion rates, which we used pretty conservative conversion rates based off of our research.
Yeah, with the student number, it was based off a statistic that said AI integrated education increases passing rates by 16%. And so this would be roughly 2050, so when it's rolled out into all universities. So this is like an annual number by that point. But before that, we would predict that graduation rates would be increasing just in the areas where we're impacting the students.